Hello and salam Malaysia Madani. Welcome to On the Table. We are broadcasting on RTM Click and MyTV's Berita RTM channel 123, which is also live streaming on YouTube. I'm your host, Otto Othman. Good evening and salam Malaysia Madani. Today we have an opportunity to dive into a vital topic that resonates deeply with our collective aspirations for a better future. The Malaysian-Asean Youth SDG Summit 2025, scheduled this Saturday, is not only a platform for youth empowerment in Malaysia and ASEAN region, but it also emphasizes the essential pillars of inclusivity and sustainability. To discuss more about this coming summit in particular and current youth development in general, we have the Director of Malaysian-Asean Youth SDG 2025 Summit, Phyllis George Thomas. Welcome to our studio.
Thank you for having me, Othman.
Thank you for coming into the studio. Now, without further ado, with over 200 participants expected, the Malaysian-ASEAN Youth SDG Summit 2025 is clearly gaining momentum. What makes this summit different from previous initiatives in the region?
I think one, just to give a context on how the summit has come about and the organisers per se. This summit is organised by the All-Party Parliamentary Group Malaysia on Sustainable Development Goals, APPGM-SDG, together with My SDG Academy, the training centre of APPGM-SDG. And this is in collaboration with Wan Utama and our supporting partners, including Ministry of Youth and Sports, MBM, Coalition for the United Nations We Need, UN Office of Malaysia, Brunei and Singapore, and our 43 other partners that have been working with us strongly to push the narrative of inclusive communities and enhancing inclusivity and sustainability together with youth. And the summit this year, bringing with the theme Enhancing Inclusivity and Sustainability in line with Malaysia's ASEAN theme, what makes it unique? What makes it different? I think one aspect to it is our interesting new model of how we viewed conferences in general as youths. Because when youths enter into a space, what are they looking for? Content, yes. Then active participation, yes. And also the relationships that are built. One thing that we strongly focus on is on SDG 17, which is a partnership for the goals. And this year, the summit will have few key pulses, including the SDG labs, focusing on thematic areas, including research on corporate sustainability, youth in grassroots initiatives, and youth in governance. These are four key thematic areas of the key pulse. Number one. Number two is we have in concurrent side events that are happening. Side events, our partners like WWF, My Diplomacy, Bahai, Tzetzi and YMCA, they are all conducting side events which aim to engage with the participants and audience, youth-based audience, on more interactive ways on how youths can see sustainability through a new lens. Our partners, together with that, we also have other events during the summit, including the SDG Explorers, which aim to bridge this partnership, this unique model of partnership, public-private partnership, together with youth and corporate companies on learning on corporate sustainability practices. Wan Utama itself is the first green mall in Malaysia, and hosting this summit at Wan Utama's Secret Garden. If you go to the rooftop, you can find it's a very unique space with over 200 species of plants that are there, and a cafe that is there. It's vibe, chill, and very youth-friendly. And I think that's something very interesting that we tried out this year, actually, because previously we have done it in conference setting, the typical sitting and listening to everyone. But the summit this year has the key pulses which kind of are spread out, and youths can participate in anything that they are interested in. Together with the side events, we also have the ESD exhibitions, where we are showcasing the efforts on sustainable practices by our strategic partners, and what is the way forward together with them on how youths can engage on their initiatives, and also ASEAN exhibitions of what are key ASEAN themes or initiatives that are done on sustainable practices. That is on ESG exhibitions. And finally, on the night of the summit, we have something interesting. We have this thing called the Utopia Night.
Wow. Okay,
Utopia Night, yeah. Utopia Night is a space for networking, jazz music, chill.
There's music?
Yeah. So, interestingly, this was a new setting that we tried out, and we are trying because, of course, growth begins with exploring. So we're trying out new methods of how to engage better with youths as change makers. What are they interested in? What are we interested in as youths? And bringing that platform, because I think two key values that youths look for is two things. Number one is space, and number two is trust.
When you're talking about different cultures and seeing how we evolve throughout the years, and taking the settings to from an enclosed environment, which is, I think, much more safer and much more inclusive, and we can actually focus on the conference. But now we're focusing on an outdoor kind of event, a more chill kind of vibe, even jazz music. Yeah. I mean, has it changed so drastically, or has it changed like just slow pace, steadily, just to find out how the audience might engage better in terms of this kind of conference?
Perfect. So, especially in terms of our initiative with the SDG Labs, that's a panel discussion session. So it's not moving too much away from how conferences typically are done. However, it's more clustered, where youths can engage in what events they are interested in. Are you interested in more gamified experiences? Then the side events are there.
Wow.
Or are you interested in more focused discussions? Then the labs are there.
Now, what about the Way Forward? I'm interested to know that model, the Way Forward model. Is it being positioned as a new platform for regional youth collaboration? Can you explain a bit more what makes it the innovative and more impactful in this time?
Okay, I did bring something just to show a bit of how Way Forward looks like.
Okay.
Because we have...
What's that?
This is the latest, the logo of Way Forward. So, allow me to explain what it is from this. So, W stands for Weaving Partnership.
Okay, can we take a look at this? Okay. There we go. All right, please explain.
W stands for Weaving Partnership, A for Accelerating SDGs, and Y for You and Youth. I'll dive deeper into it, and this is the Way Forward, Impact-Driven Future.
Okay, so this is the logo. Is there like any meaning towards all these colors? Is it like
perfect. Okay, so we do have some thematics that we have. Now the SDGs is number one. Number two, if you look at this, is actually
it looks like a ribbon.
It's how do I say it? Magnifying glass.
A magnifying glass, okay.
So focusing on research and in-depth study.
Okay.
And if you look at this figure...
Yes, please explain.
It can be interpreted in different ways, but the first thing that people that we have showed this logo to, they've said is, oh, it looks like a youth jumping or leaping.
Oh,
leaping
yeah,
forward.
It does actually.
Yeah.
So this is considered the head, and while this is the hands, body, torso, as well as the feet, the legs. Yeah. I see.
So that Way Forward is bridging youth partnership to jump together. You and youth, yeah.
The Way Forward.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you very much for sharing that. And everybody who took the initiative to actually create that as well is very innovative. And I think the whole idea is apt, and it was well presented as well. So thank you very much for that. Now, moving on to this. Now, the summit emphasizes intergenerational collaboration. Intergeneration. I mean, there's probably lots of generations now, as you can see, Alpha and all the other generations, Gen Z. Now, from a youth perspective, how important is it to have a seat at the table alongside old decision makers?
That is a very question, and this very question was also raised at the UN Summit of the Future last year, which adopted the Pact of the Future, Global Digital Compact, and Future Generations document. And this is a document translated from global to local contexts. And what does this document say? This is for the acceleration of SDGs, and the youths that had attended during the platform had addressed the same question on what is the participation of youth in decision-making or governance, and are we here just as because of tokenism, or are we really involved in the process and progress of decision-making?
That's a good question, yeah.
And this is where I believe strongly that the involvement of youth in this aspect is, number one, going back to your question on governance, aspect to it is how do we see youth and their involvement in the process and progress? again, I would like to link it back to our two key points, space and trust. And how do we effectively involve youths in this process is through engaging from the beginning. The youths need to have an idea of how they are involved through the process and also see the output. So in our department, in our unit itself, the Youth Development Unit, we did use this kind of idea in involvement of youth within the process. And this was a gradual realization of how youths were involving with us. And this was a triangle figure which starts by base the network. That means the summit and similar spaces as networking spaces that youths have. Then goes to the second phase, which is skill building or knowledge building. Then finally to the last phase, which is being involved in the system, the identity that the youths have with shared value and vision. So that is in terms of involvement in process and progress of governance and slowly moving up. So it's a bottom-up approach that effectively engages youths within different spheres. But we also have to note on interest and also capacity. Because interest and capacity is also something that is very important in terms of how youths are able to map with the current progress and trends that are happening.
Or even navigate themselves in this whole governance issue as well, which is, I think, very brilliant that you have managed to actually identify the levels that are in. Because you cannot just simply drag a child, for example, drag a child into a meeting and then expect him or her to understand what's happening inside the meeting.
Correct.
I would say the same thing as my father, my late father as well. He would bring me to these meetings. I would understand a single thing, but I can understand the urgency of the meeting.
Yeah.
So having this kind of intergenerational conferences is, I think, very apt and very meaningful for both generations. Which brings me to the fourth question over here. As we talk about intergenerational, would you say that there's a lack of youth participation in our country's governance? And is there any programs from APP, GM, SDG in encouraging youth to be more aware on governance issues in the country?
I would like to also bring this again on the intergenerational aspect, because together with APPGM, SDG and the summit itself, we have had the Young Politicians Workshop as a platform to engage youths in different political affiliations for sustainable development. And this was a bipartisan initiative that brought together youths from different political parties in engaging for how to implement the sustainable development goals, focusing on SDG 16 and 17, peace and partnership. And how did the intergenerational process happen within these two spheres? Number one is in terms of the conversations. The conversations that are built, are we involving the youths in these conversations because we want to see how we can collaborate better? Or is it just gathering inputs and then leaving it as a document for later use? Because that was again raised up by many of our youth friends.
That's very smart.
And that conversation, starting with conversation in that network space, starts a ripple effect towards where they can build their skills. What are the skills youths can complement together with different generational perspectives? And then finally, the identity in terms of how youth and different generational groups are able to work together as one. Because as humans, we are social beings. My background is in counseling, and I noticed and realized that many of the mental health spheres, one of the key narratives that we see is on social development, or humans are social beings. And so that complementing factor between two different individuals, between two different generations, between two different partners is very important, because we need to identify each strengths and weaknesses and how we can complement each other. So what are the APPGM, SDG initiatives or MySG Academy initiatives that allow or bridge this? I think starting with the summit itself, we do, for our SDG labs, we do have that conversation that is built and moderated by our staff. We have many of them who are working on the ground, having a conversation with the youths on how community building, for example, SDG Labs on youth and community building. How do different generations see this? Our moderator is around 50, and while our youths below 30, they're going to have a conversation on how this community building happens, what are the best practices, what's happening on the ground. Is the perspectives are the same? Are we complementing each other in terms of the initiatives that we are doing? Because youths are filled with passion and drive. So we need to have a playground together with our friends from different perspectives for a beautiful game.
Exactly. Well said over there. We are going to go for a little short break, and there's more to talk about with regards to today's topic. So stick around right here.
In 2025, Malaysia proudly leads the ASEAN community into a new era of unity, growth, and opportunity. Together with 10 Southeast Asian nations, Malaysia is driving progress in trade, innovation, sustainability, and tourism. Explore the best of Malaysia, from its stunning landscapes to its rich cultural heritage. Be part of global events, business summits, and exciting festivals throughout the year. Join us in 2025. Discover new connections, celebrate unity, and experience the future of Southeast Asia. ASEAN Malaysia 2025. Together, we rise.
Welcome back. And we are speaking to Phyllis George Thomas, Director of the upcoming Malaysian-ASEAN Youth SDG Summit. Thank you very much for coming to the studio. And once again, more questions for you. When we talk about youth, we must talk about current generation technologies. With the rise of artificial intelligence, is our youth prepared to face the imminent effect of AI taking over their jobs? So a follow-up towards that, could you explain to us? And some of regions in ASEAN countries are still left behind in digital era. So can you explain a bit more?
Thank you for raising that up. I think that has also been an individual concern that I have for quite some time, been reflecting on it. And one key aspect to it is how, again, when we talked about earlier in terms of intergenerational partnership, I think this, when it comes down to it, when we talk about digital compact, we also see that partnership between AI and youth also. What are the complementing factors? Are we seeing a huge gap, or are we seeing AI as the bridge to more effectively work so that we have more space to worry or think about other things? And to the question of, is it taking off employability opportunities, or is it
helping us out in a way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perhaps that question, I think, is very individually defined, cannot collectively be said about it. However, we can see the general landscape of it, because many of our youths, even from students in school settings and also university settings, they are using the use of AI for generating content. And so now we are moving totally into a new trend or new era in terms of how do we still build capacity and competence of youth with the presence of things that can generate content easily with one touch. So now the question to reflect or consider is, does accessibility equal competence? Now that should be a vital point when we are deciding whether this AI is taking over everything. Does accessibility equal competence?
Now, I like the fact that we're talking about the intergenerational capacity of each generation and having a conversation within the summit. These kind of questions might pose quite a stirring topic, but then when it comes to AI, it can be a factor where we can move forward together with the youth, as long as the intergeneration can actually understand each other and find ways. How would you think that this whole thing can actually live up to the expectation of the governance now?
I believe, again, it starts with conversations.
Yes.
The conversations need to spark. Do we have the space? Do we have the trust to give both sides? And that needs to be the base point of it. When the foundation is there, then slowly effective implementations. Because once you talk about it, each of us also needs to have the capacity of following up to it. Is this implemented effectively? And then do we see the collaborative work together?
Exactly.
Because that is how partnerships are truly made.
Now, we need to address also the issue of employment among youth nowadays. Now, the average youth unemployment rate is in ASEAN for 2023 was 8.44%, with Brunei having the highest at 18.61% and Cambodia the lowest at 0.78%. Now, what are some of the issues facing our youth in getting employed, and how do we actually fare compared to our neighbors?
I hope to address in terms of how youths perhaps see the narrative of employability and unemployability, so that it gives more perspective to the viewer also on new lights of, especially coming from social sciences. This might be something that something unique to consider for organizations and also youths in their career building. Now, one key aspect to it is personality and job match. Does my personality align with the job that I'm looking for? Number two is interest alignment. Of course, when we grow up, our interest starts to change, and our perspectives towards life's outlook starts to change. And this is number two. Number three is our competence and skills and capacity. Do we have capacity for the job that we are applying for or that we are looking for? Now, that might or might not address the question of what is the employability rate that's happening. And to say that opportunities are around. Opportunities are around, especially when coming to Malaysian context. I am grateful that Malaysia is still moving to a very progressive state in providing opportunities. And now, the question is, the stream of the pool of these opportunities, is it effectively communicated to the people who need it? And that's the question that we need to ask when we come to that space.
Now, do you think that we need an intervention by the authority on the ASEAN regional level to actually reduce the number of unemployment?
I believe one thing that we can look into definitely is I'll provide from APBGM's flow of work of how some best practices of what can be done and what can be replicated in the regional perspective. Number one is a bottom-up approach. Bottom-up approach or local to global approach. And now, how do we address unemployability? So we do have, APBGM now has works together with 143 members of the parliament and in 143 constituencies out of 222 with the aim to cover all 222 by 2030. And with running 1,300 projects, working together with more than 900 partners. And having this space is not just a collaborative space, but there are the projects that are done offers solution providers or offers our grassroots leaders and also community, even for them to scale up and start businesses, small enterprises and so on and so forth. So starting with a sustainable model for economic development. I would like to also take this opportunity to mention on social solidarity economy. And this is in the end of May, we do have the Malaysian-Asean the ASEAN SDG SSE Forum, which sees SSE as a vehicle to accelerate the SDGs. Now you might ask, what is SSE? SSE stands for Social Solidarity Economy, with a focus on social aspects and environmental aspects for economic development over profit. So we see more social enterprises growing. And the forum itself, the aim of it is to have a roadmap for SDG SSE framework. So to have a roadmap so that ASEAN, since Malaysia is chairman of ASEAN this year, next year Philippines is ready to take on the narrative of the roadmap for SDG SSE, acceleration of SDGs through the SSE model. This is together with APBGM, MyZG Academy, and ASEC.
So is this youth-led initiatives or in other ASEAN countries as well? Is this youth-led, by the way?
The SDG SSE itself, it brings together different stakeholders. It's not youth for youth per se. However, it has inclusive component to it.
I see. Now, since that we're pressed for time, next question is, what are the main barriers that ASEAN youth face in contributing to sustainable development? And how does the way forward, model help overcome them?
I would link this directly to SDG 17 partnership, because way forward believes, or the move that we have now is the quadruple helix model of partnership, which is talking about few key stakeholders. Number one, media. Number two, corporate organizations or agencies. Number three, civil society organizations. Number four, government agencies. And number five, academic institutions. These are stakeholders that are there to bridge this partnership. And when there is a lack of partnership, we are unable to know the strengths and weaknesses of each other for the complementing factor to happen. So, few things that we need truly to effectively translate or crystallize this narrative from local to global, regional and global is, number one, trust. Number two, the space needs to be there. Number three, the partnerships needs to be there.
I think the partnership is there. The space might change.
Yeah, true.
Even the influence might change as well as the time goes by. Now, as a youth leader attending the summit, what outcomes or commitments are you hoping to see from government and also industry leaders?
I do believe that with this new narrative, especially in 2025 onwards, what we can see a strengthening of partnership. How do we see each partners play a stronger role in the development of youths and empowerment of youths to bring forward a sustainable future together? I think that is one thing, because one question when it comes to partner is, what do I do as a partner?
Yeah.
What's my role? What's my expectation? Sometimes we might ask ourselves, okay, do we have the capacity enough to actually take on all the expectations, or how do we manage this or play with this?
Do they have some anxiety as well as coming to the whole forum?
Yeah, totally. Even as the time is closing by, my heart beats faster also. But I think that's the beauty of it. That's what makes us human, and that's what makes every interaction more meaningful and more beautiful.
More interesting as well.
Yeah, true.
And I'd like to also ask about, with regards to holding us together as one. Do you think the change that is happening is very fast? Before we end this, do you think change is so fast?
Ooh, definitely. Change is moving too fast.
Even for the youth?
Even for the youth.
I see. Okay.
However, I would like to mention that when change happens, or when things are moving too fast, trends are changing in a very fast pace. Social media, the influences are moving. One might have this perspective today, tomorrow another perspective. But one thing is, every time for every youth and also every leader out there, all of us are leaders. And all of us are complementers of each other. So one thing is, take a step back and realize yourself, be grounded. Notice every senses that you have, what you feel, what you touch, and everything. So everything around us, and we are complementing, and we are building an ecosystem together.
That's great. All right.
Yeah.
So that's all the time that we have for our On the Table this evening. So thank you so much, Phyllis George Thomas, for coming to the studio, the director of the Malaysian-ASEAN Youth SDG 2025 Summit, for sharing his insights with us. Thank you so much. Now, a repeat of this broadcast can be viewed again at the same time tomorrow and subsequent days on both RTM Click and MyTV's Berita RTM channel, as well as Berita RTM YouTube channel. Till next Thursday, we'll discuss another topic of interest. I'm Otto Othman. Thanks for watching.